Hi Katrina, this is a nice charcoal portrait. It's got a winsome quality. It's a little pouty in expression, which is curious and interesting. This is a longer drawing, and I think that it is worthy of a good share of your time. There's probably room to develop this further, for instance, in the area of the nose, where we might see the nose more from a frontal view here as the eyes are positioned from a frontal view in the mouth too. Could there be a stronger shadow under the chin? Could we see shoulders, maybe a suggestion of a collar? So Amanda, I understand that you've been moved by a fire in the vicinity of where you live, and that this image, a preparatory drawing toward your final project, is inspired by that experience. This is really a lovely image. Um, a couple of things. I like the way that you're mapping out perspective for the building. There's room for making that a little more accurate, right? For instance, the threshold that the fireman kneels upon should be in line with the wall on the left side more so, right? Its edge should be parallel with the edge of the wall it emanates from. I'm also looking at the fireman's boot, and I'm thinking it could be a little bigger, right? He's going to have a big boot, a big foot. So this is lovely, and I look forward to seeing what more you do. We discussed this portrait drawing before, and it's got a lot of very lovely qualities. It's a strong drawing for you. Uh, Here with your final project sketch, the idea of measuring your subject with your hand is a nice one. We've drawn hands earlier on in the course, and it's nice to have a suggestion of a person in the composition. The fireplace is a lovely theme, and I like seeing it from a different angle here. I like the way that you've got the gate or fence positioned, and you'll see in the discussion I've added some ideas about how to deal with that very dark stoop or ledge if you decide to go this route. Well, hi Kim, this is a curious portrait. It's interesting that you've tipped your head to one side. It doesn't look like a terribly comfortable pose, but it does catch our attention because it's not the usual sort of frontal view. So let's see, eyes seem to be placed suitably halfway down the head, and all the features are drawn well. I would encourage you to work more on creating light and shadow over the forms of the face. For instance, the hollows in which the eyes sit, could they be darker? Could there be a stronger shadow on your neck, under your chin? I just think that there's room to really make this drawing sensational, make it lifelike. Well, hello, Joanne. Looking at your self-portrait here, a lot of care went into assembling it. I want to encourage you to be a little less strictly symmetrical with the placement of things, because that's making your drawing look a bit diagrammatic. We can notice that on either side of the neck, the hair falls in very straight lines, and the eyes are very similar in shape, and they're outlined rather heavily. Um, so, let's see. Could that edge of the eye be lost and found? In other words, are there some areas where, say, the white of the eye is nearly the same value as the skin of the eyelid, and there you could have almost no line at all? I'm thinking even if your eyes are very light blue, the irises will have some value to them, right? And let's see. Thinking about value, there can be more value on the form of the nose aside from the dark nostrils. I'd like you to look for a dark plane there on the underside of the nose in the area where the nostrils are, so that not just the nostrils but also the underside of the tip of the nose winds up being dark. Just the nose casts a shadow in the direction of the upper lip. Is there a subtle shadow that shows the height of the nose between the area of its tip and the bridge? And look too at the mouth For instance, generally the upper lip is going to look a little darker than the lower lip because of the way that it's slanted. Well, the concept of a living room and a fireplace is a nice one for your final project. I want to encourage you to include more of this scenario. I think that if the two chairs were seen in their entirety, it would give you a better sense of the perspective in the room. I noticed that the fireplace seems to be leaning downward on the left side. And I think that's something you can control through keeping your paper square with the edge of your table and using good posture while you draw, and also by including more things in the drawing or seeing more of the room, I guess is what I want to get at. Now, by the easy chair there on the right, there's a little table, and I'm trying to understand the form of it. Is that a square table? If so, apply what you know about perspective there to it. Hi, Lisa. With this self-portrait drawing, I believe I commented on the same version in a drafts review, so I'm going to refer you to that, but I also want you to listen in to what I had to say to Joanne with regard to adding value to describe the forms of the face. Now, looking at your final project sketch, I noticed that you had a question about the book, and what I would say is this. Set up everything in your kitchen just like you want it, and perhaps mark the table. You could use a little bit of masking tape, for instance, to mark where the book goes in case you have to close it or put it away because you're serving dinner. But I want you to set things up and draw from the arrangement. I'd also like you to have the person posing for you like you pose for yourself in the mirror for at least part of the time. If you need to, you could also work from a photo. Now I'm going to refer you to your classmates' critiques. I have read a good critique or two that covered your work recently. I want you to look for what Jennifer W. had to say, because I noticed that this kitchen has been drawn by you before, and there's room for you to be a little stronger with your portrayals of interiors. I want you to use sighting. I want you to study that clock face method for analyzing angles, and understand that the edge of that fridge, the side of it, should be a vertical in this sort of drawing. Why, Chris, this is a nice charcoal drawing, your self-portrait. Glasses are always hard, I know. Let's see. I had a comment about your nose here. I think that there's room for you to let the tip of the nose be a little rounder. It's looking ever so slightly pointy, and it might be that the nostrils can be angled so that the inside edge is a little higher than the outside edge of the nostril opening itself. Looking at your photo, I'm comparing here. Now, I think you've observed how the upper lip is usually in shadow and the lower lip catches the light. Looking at your photo, I noticed that one corner of your mouth is also in shadow because the light's shining from one direction. I see less of an effect of directional lighting in your drawing as compared to the photo itself. Let's see, I'm wondering if you're doing some preliminary sketching with pencil here, and one little problem with that is that sometimes it makes grooves in the paper that show up then later when you shade the charcoal drawing. I think it's great that you're going out to location to create this drawing. I've done a lot of cycling myself, and I usually carry a sketchbook when I do go. Hi Nina, yes, I could imagine that drawing this year would take a long time. Such care has been lavished on it. It is really beautiful. But I'll also say that if you stick with the vine charcoal and the stick of compressed charcoal, you can create a semblance of hair without drawing every last hair on your head. In fact, I'd like you to think about that. Generally, when we observe a tree or a person and their head of hair, we're not counting the individual leaves or the hairs. So there's room for suggestion in your drawing. And remember too that a drawing is not a photograph. I think here there's a little more room for strong darks on the form of your face, under your chin, for example.